My name is Brian Anderson. I'm MITRE's Chief Digital Health Physician, and I'm here to share a little bit about the Vaccination Credential Initiative. I briefly wanted just to share a little bit about how we got started and just the effort in general. So go ahead and next slide. One more slide, please. Thank you. So initially we got started about 3 months ago as a broad coalition of stakeholders in the vaccine administration, distribution, and broadly speaking, technology enabler space. Next slide. This is a list of all of the coalition members that have agreed to have their names publicly released as part of a large press announcement that we had last week. We have a series of work groups that include all of these numbers and those that aren't part of the public announcement. We're really excited that the group of stakeholders spans both health systems, registries, technology and device manufacturers, some of the largest health IT corporations in the world have gotten behind a very simple idea. Next slide. And so you might ask, well, what is that idea? And the mission and the goal of the VCI is empowering individuals with digital access to their vaccination records based on an open, interoperable standard. And so that standard you can find more about at vaccinationcredentialinitiative.org, but it is based on the W3C standard. It leverages verifiable credentials, and it leverages Smart on Fire. And so what can you do with this digital vaccination record that uses this open source interoperable standard? Well, just a few very upfront use cases around what our coalition rallied around. And those include just a simple demonstration of proof of vaccination. A lot of the colleagues here on the call have really dove into some of the specific user stories around how that can be demonstrated. And very excited, frankly, to be able to partner with many of you in that space. Also around reminding the second vaccine dose, when and where and what vaccine to get it. Ramesh described that, I think, really succinctly at the beginning, the importance to leverage digital validated credentials to ensure that individuals are getting those doses in a timely manner at the appropriate place is very important, as well as other downstream use cases, opting into research, being able to better inform platforms like VAERS and adverse event reporting. Also being able to support the existing IT infrastructure around vaccination registries, right? So being able to have an individual empowered with their own vaccine credential, being able to share that with their health provider, as well as with registries. These are some of the initial use cases that our coalition is coordinating on. Next slide. So I won't bother describing the problem statement in its entirety, other than to focus really on what the main objective here is, which is to have a digital certificate, be able to be readily available and supported, preserving the privacy that individuals all want and demand, be it on an Android device or an iOS device, using those digital wallets that are on those platforms, as well as being able to support printed QR codes containing that W3C verifiable credential that I was describing earlier. So both a digital certificate and a paper certificate, leveraging an open source standard that's readily available on the two major devices that we have in the market today, iOS and Android devices. Next slide. So the initial use case that we've been focusing much of our work group activity around is patient or individual centric. An individual that is, in this case, as part of the user story, getting a Pfizer vaccine. It could obviously easily be a Moderna vaccine at a pharmacy. I should note that that can also be obviously at a health system or at a mobile vaccination site. They want to be able to get that on their mobile device. Well, you might imagine that pharmacy or that health system, once the vaccine is administered, being able to securely transfer that record to their Android device or their iOS device via a secure link, a text link, an email link, that when clicked on and when the QR code is presented and downloaded, can then readily be available on their digital wallet and used with their consent for any of those downstream use cases that I was describing earlier. Next slide. We're also actively looking to dive into pharmacovigilance. And this is work that we're obviously very interested in coordination with the pharmaceutical manufacturing vendors, as well as with state and federal agencies around adverse event reporting. We are also working in partnership with a number of state registries in partnership with the health systems that are in those states to support broadly the IIS infrastructure between health systems and registries, as well as to enable that bidirectional flow, hopefully between registries and individuals. As well, of course, and I think there's been a lot of press around this already, leveraging these digital vaccination credentials for the return to work, the reopening of our economies that we're all very eager to happen in a rapid and safe way. One of our partners, the Commons Project, has been working very closely with a number of major airline industries and the federal government in this space to use this standard so that individuals, for example, flying on United or Cathay Pacific or JetBlue might be able to use their credential as part of the boarding experience to ensure that in international travel that it's done safely. Next slide. And so this is a basic architecture, high-level architecture of what it is that we're doing. I want to start on the left and I'll move to the right. I described it as part of the initial use case. We're focusing on pharmacies and health systems who are the issuers of the vaccines, as well as, of course, the issuers of this credential. This overall approach leverages what I'll call a trust framework around it. That allows for the verification or the verifiability between an issuer of a vaccine on the left and the verifiers on the right. So as that credential is issued to an individual that can be stored on their wallet, it can also be sent to HIEs, to registries, and the like. Again, supporting the traditional IIS framework, also working seamlessly with the IZ gateway. And ideally into the CDC. Once in the wallet, though, if we're moving from left to right, again, being supported ideally with an iOS and Android devices, that can be used for the back to work, back to school, boarding of flights, etc., using visually displayed QR codes on one's device. That can also be used, again, with a patient's or with an individual's consent, moving again from right to left for other use cases, adverse event reporting, research components, reminders. These are all important enablers of that kind of digital credential. On the other end, right, so if you're an airline industry, a large capacity venue for a concert or a school that might want to have a verification process, this credential and this framework enables that kind of querying from the verifiers to the issuers to ensure that there's no fraudulent credential. It can leverage very much some of the same cryptographic technology that's been described on this call earlier to ensure and mitigate against bad actors in that space. Next slide. So I'll wrap things up really with this very simple opportunity. If you're interested in joining the Vaccination Credential Initiative, you can check out our website, www.vaccinationcredential.org. You can email that email there if you're interested in joining one of the many working groups that we have standing up. We're focused initially on leveraging this standard around the specific use cases of our partner organization. So if you're a health system, we have a health system working group. If you're a pharmacy organization or a company, we have pharmacy-specific use cases. We're also working with some of the public health officials at the state level and regional level to ensure that they have the tools, community health workers have the tools. So much of what this is about the standard, but it is also about the application of that standard in the specific working groups, of which those are some of them, to actually implement it, use it, promote adoption, and really ultimately empower and enable individuals to have freely and openly available vaccination credentials that are verifiable. You can check out more around the technical details. I didn't dive into too much of it at healthwallet.cards. That effort is led by Microsoft in partnership with the MITRE Corporation and the Commons Project. We have a whole technical team. And so if you're interested in contributing to that standard, we would welcome you, and please reach out. I think that's all the slides I have, Ramesh. It's a pretty straightforward message. We look forward to working with you and others that are interested in partnering with us along that mission and goal of empowering and enabling individuals with this open standard. Thanks. Back to you.
Thank you, Brian. That's just fascinating overview of how this vaccine credentials initiatives are coming together. And we need a few of these to tackle every sub problem we're going to encounter as we reopen economies and redefine our public health.